Hello there and welcome back to the channel, to the next Versus episode in this series. If you've not already, check out the playlist of other episodes like this one. It's likely linked up in a corner or somewhere, maybe. And see the other episodes like this in the series. As I established in the previous ones, this series is the first one I've done where I'm jumping universes. It's not just all Star Trek here, we're looking at factions from other universes. And today, we're looking at what would happen in a theoretical conflict between the Earth Alliance and the Goa'uld from the Stargate universe and Babylon 5 universes respectively. So let's get into that. Of course, the ground rules, as established before, I've got to equalize at least their weapons capability so that we can establish that they can at least harm one another and take a bit of a beating from each other. At least that. Everything else remains the same, including disposition of forces, numbers, and tactics. So let's get started at looking at who our two combatants are. And in the left corner, we've got the Earth Alliance. Of course, this is humanity from that universe, humans being the favorite hosts for the Goa'uld, so that's probably going to be a factor here. Humans by this point, by the 23rd century, have become a spacefaring civilization. Human ships are known for being quite robust and sturdy and very numerous. They have a hell of a lot of them, and humans are known as good engineers and known for their technical skill and their ability to build ships and weapons in very large numbers. They're also known to be very aggressive fighters, and some races even consider having a human bodyguard to be a mark of honor and prestige. Humans generally are one of the younger races, but they are technologically proficient and are more that they make up for some of their technological shortcomings with sheer overwhelming force and tenacity and excellent tactical heads. The average Earth Alliance vessels are equipped with fusion pulse cannons, missile systems, lasers, and other systems, occasionally plasma weapons, things of that nature. Although a lot of Earth ships don't actually have gravity, they do utilize rotational sections in some vessels which generate centrifugal force in those areas that can then have gravity. However, gravitic drive systems on some of the more modern Earth Alliance ships like the Warlock class destroyer and even the Victory class vessels does allow for gravity aboard the entire ship everywhere, and that's something good, but it's not aboard every ship. The rotational section does hinder the vessel's maneuverability considerably. It also limits their ability to weather damage, as it's an obvious weak point with its drive sections being an obvious target. They're quite large. They have weak points where they attach to the rest of the hull. So there is an issue there. Their method of FTL is also a little unique. Humans use jump technology. Now, the bigger Earth vessels have built-in jump drives that allows them to access their version, shall we say, of hyperspace independently. But other ships, fighters and other vessels, transports, have to use what's known as a jump gate, which is a little bit like a Stargate, I suppose, except it accesses hyperspace directly. And if a ship doesn't have an onboard jump drive, all it has to do is sort of send a command code to the gate, it'll open up a big portal, and the ship zooms in and then follows navigational beacons therein to reach its destination. That is generally how they move around. As I said, the bigger ships can do it on their own, but it's actually, although quick, it's not the fastest form of FTL, limiting humans to their corner of the galaxy. Humans have not fully explored the entire Milky Way galaxy by the 23rd century, and their ships simply aren't fast enough or long range enough to actually accomplish that goal. Although they can get around the galaxy pretty well, it takes time. It's actually probably, in my estimation, much slower than the Goa'uld version. Their average ship is the Omega class destroyer. This is the most ubiquitous and familiar vessel that humans have. It's one of their largest and most powerful ships, and the Omega class has that rotational drive section as well as 4 main engines at the rear. It has particle cannons at the front and aft, as well as pulse weapons mounted all along the ship, giving it a 360-degree arc of fire in space. So actually it's got a 0-degree axis of fire. It can fire in every direction. So the vessel is extremely powerful. It also carries fighters. The standard fighters it carries is the starfighter known as a Star Fury. There are variants of this vessel. There is one that's capable of space flight only and another that can enter an atmosphere. But either way, in space they're pretty equal. They're fast, they're maneuverable, and they're actually renowned for their maneuverability. They're armed with pulse cannons and have no shields. That's another point. None of the Earth vessels have any form of shielding technology, with shield technology in that universe being extremely rare and only used by the higher races. However, Earth vessels do have the ability to somewhat charge their hull plating Notably, ships like the Warlock class and the Victory class can do this, and this disperses energy that hits the hull. On the older ships, this is only limited, but on the more advanced vessels, it can absorb up to 90% of an impact. So although the vessel lacks shields, it can dissipate kinetic and energy-based weapons on the hull substantially. They also use interceptors, basically pulse weapons that are designed not to shoot at the enemy ship, but to shoot down fighters, missiles, and even directly intercept energy pulses flying through space, because obviously space is big, as I've often had to try and stress. And advanced spacefaring civilizations like this, they don't really fight close up like you see often. Those distances are actually vast. You probably can't really see your enemy that you're shooting at. Think about naval warfare. Your average cruise ship is firing its missiles. Cruise ship? Your average warship is firing its cruise missiles, over the horizon. It's firing its guns over the horizon. You quite often cannot see the land or naval target you're actually hitting because of the curvature of the Earth. It's not flat. Anyway, these ships would have a similar thing, but imagine that scaled up considerably, although in this case you would be shooting in a straight plane. It's unlikely you're firing around something, although that is possible. You probably still can't see one another, so they actually shoot these things down because they've got plenty of time to intercept them. But even then, even with the best screens, things get through. So let's look at what the Goa'uld have to offer. The Goa'uld are a parasitical species. They're actually snake-like, maybe a couple of feet in length at most. They're extremely intelligent and known for being quite egotistical, although there is some evidence that that's only with the Goa'uld up at the top, and your average Goa'uld down at the lower levels of their societies maybe not quite as bad. But the ones up at the top are using sarcophagus technology that's driving them insane by extending their lives, and basically the use of this technology is like an addictive drug and makes you go more and more insane the longer you use it. Goa'ulds can live for thousands of years as it is, easily living 2,000 years. With the help of the sarcophagus, Goa'uld have been shown to live over 10,000 years without a problem. The symbiote itself gives the host advantages. Not only is the symbiote extremely intelligent, but biologically it enhances their strength, makes them heal faster, makes them more resistant to radiation, poisons, toxins. They can survive in difficult environments, and they can basically keep the host alive much better. They can treat things like cancer, disease, chronic disease. They can actually reset the body so that it's almost like it's a younger body than what they went into initially, making they'll get rid of parasites, anything that's in your body that's not good for it. The symbiote's immune system is so overwhelmingly powerful it will completely neutralize it. So you'll have an army at their peak. The general army of the Goa'uld, however, do vary. There are generally 2 soldiers that the Goa'uld have at their disposal as standard. You've got the Jafar, who are the most numerous. The Jafar are a genetically modified race of humans that actually have larval Goa'uld in their belly that give them all the same advantages of having a Goa'uld in their head taking over them, but still retain their independence. This is to help to work as an incubation net system for the baby Goa'uld, but also helps the Goa'uld acclimatize to being inside of a human host, because they don't come from the same planet, so the Goa'uld are effectively infesting an alien. So to make themselves more compatible with their chosen hosts, the incubation within the Jafar makes it easier for them to take a human host and increases the success rate of the blending process. Jafar gain strength and longevity from this blending. Jafar are extremely fanatical, willing to die for their gods as they see them, and are extremely tough fighters, albeit some of their weapons perhaps are more geared towards intimidation than efficiency, but that's not to say that all of them are. The other form of foot soldier utilised by the Goa'uld are far more effective. They are known as Kull warriors. They are actual Goa'ulds, not humans. They again typically use a genetically modified host, although I will say there's nothing stopping your average Goa'uld putting the armour on, or perhaps even giving that armour to a Jafar if you really felt like it. The Kulls are also specially bred Goa'ulds. They're born with genetic memory, the Goa'uld, so the queens that birth them breed these Goa'uld with knowledge but no personality, meaning that they're completely subservient. They lack all the ego and everything that comes to the other Goa'uld. They also don't live anywhere near as long as a normal Goa'uld because they're fighting to keep the host alive, because like the Jafar, it's a genetically engineered host, they'll only live a few weeks. It's unknown if the symbiote can be removed and implanted in another host, but it probably can't, and it dies as well. The host body can't survive without the symbiote, and the symbiote dies because the host body dies. So, not good for anyone, but the Goa'uld use these as elite shock troops. Although I will again say there's nothing stopping a normal Goa'uld putting this armor on, and we do see some other individuals like humans occasionally using this armor. There is also the possibility that amongst all the slave world the Goa'uld keep, and we've seen some of them do this, they will also utilize human soldiers if their back is against the wall. So let's look at their technology. The Goa'uld have shields, which is something the Earth Alliance does not have. They also have transporter technology, something the Earth Alliance does not have. Fighters, I would say, are similar, and I would actually go as far as to say the Star Fury has an advantage, but we'll get to that. The main ship utilized by the Goa'uld is the Hatak. The Hatak is a large 600 meters-ish across vessel, making it about half the size of the average Omega class, which is about 1400 meters. It's armed with ion cannons primarily, but they can occasionally radiate out and have other forms of weapons on these ships. They are known to have main batteries that are far more powerful than their secondary batteries that are more designed to deal with smaller ships such as the Alkesh. They have very poor fighter intercept capabilities, however. Although they're not incapable of shooting down fighters, it's not what their main guns are designed for, and they more rely on their onboard Alkesh and Death Gliders to deal with small vessels. The ship itself is also protected by very advanced shields that many fusion-based weapons can't penetrate, like nuclear ordnance. They simply absorb them. The shields will protect the ship from weapons fire, radiation, and a variety of other problems the ship will encounter. Their main form of sublight propulsion is unknown, but it's thought that they utilize their hyperdrive in conjunction with it. But they utilize their sublight propulsion as a deceleration system when they come out of hyperdrive. So they do have a separate system, but the two seem to be linked to the same power network of some kind. Goa'uld vessels are capable of FTL via hyperspace conduits that they can generate and travel immense distances very quickly. Although they're not capable of intergalactic flight, Goa'uld vessels have been seen, certainly the faster one, they can get around the galaxy at most in a matter of weeks. Some of their faster ships can do it in days, but those are only the most advanced and larger ships, usually the flagships utilized by the Goa'uld. The general fleet disposition starts with the Hatak, the smaller Alkesh, smaller cargo vessels and a few other ships that are utilized for transport purposes, and then the smaller Death Gliders. The Death Gliders actually vary. There's an atmospheric specialist version, there is a space superiority fighter version, and there's even one that's often nicknamed as the Needle Threader that's designed to fly through stargates, but that's a relatively rare ship and is uncommon in the modern age of the Goa'uld Empire. The bigger capital ships are the greater threat. The Goa'uld have seemed to be able to produce big advanced ships when they need to. Some of these vessels are up to 3 or 4 times the size of a standard Hatak and contain weapon systems based on some older alien technologies not necessarily developed by the Goa'uld that have been able to seem to decimate entire fleets of Goa'uld ships on their own without a problem. So, how do these two enemies go at each other? Their first contact with one another is not going to go well. The Goa'uld see humans, the Tauri, as little more than dirty slaves that they want to worship them. The Goa'uld would immediately take a hostile stance towards any other spacefaring civilization they encounter. If they can't simply defeat it, they will negotiate with it like they do with the Asgard, but in terms of humans, they try not to tolerate any technologically advanced human race because they try to convince humans that they're gods, that they created them, and they can't have the Jafar believe anything different. So if they encounter a technologically advanced spacefaring race of humans, they're immediately going to go at them. So they instantly tell the Earth Alliance to surrender and begin to worship them and recognize them as gods. The Earth Alliance tells them exactly what black hole they can shove that up, and instantly they're going to go to war. The Earth Alliance is always on a sort of war footing as it is, although I will not go as far as to say they're a warmongering state. They are militarily ready. They instantly redeploy their fleet. Earth has advanced orbital defenses around it, so although many Goa'uld planets will have similar defenses, Earth is a very well protected location. Humans can readily deploy large numbers of ships across many bases. We even saw with very advanced civilizations like the Minbari, it still took them a couple of years to grind the Earth Alliance down. If there's one thing humans were able to deploy, it's forces. Now, the Earth Alliance will immediately encounter a problem. When they encounter shields, their weapons are simply not built to penetrate them. Missiles won't work, so they're going to rely on our heavier energy weapons. However, these will have the ability, particularly the main batteries on the ships, particularly those carried aboard the Warlock class ships that are relatively few in number. These ships will easily be able to cut through Goa'uld shields after a few shots, in conjunction with all the other vessels likely opening fire on them. we see these vessels able to carve through starships relatively easily, so I don't see the shield lasting that long against them, particularly considering humans deploy in numbers, whereas the Goa'uld often deploy in small groups, one ship, maximum 3 at a time quite often. The Goa'uld would quickly learn that they would need to concentrate their forces. They're not that stupid. So the system lords would all come together, work under one designated leader, likely Ra, who would order all the forces to collectively attack this new threat. They would begin by attacking the outer bases. They would probably arrogantly try to send a force to immediately attack Earth. Now, assuming they've got ships and technology that Anubis had, and we are doing, this would likely break through the defenses initially, but I doubt it would be able to actually penetrate Earth's orbital defenses. And this fleet will be destroyed before it would actually get too close to Earth, meaning the Goa'uld will realize that's a bad tactic, they got to pull back. So they're going to have to, just like the Minbari, try to grind the humans down from the outer parts. But the Goa'uld are a bit heavy-handed. Humans can adapt their tactics very easily. And with even a small number of Warlock class, and let's give them the Victory class ships, because the Goa'uld get to have Anubis' flagship, with those vessels at their disposal, the humans are able to quite easily take on the average Goa'uld Hattaks and begin to destroy them. The Goa'uld's numbers are substantially fewer than those of the Earth Alliance, probably only having a few hundred ships of the Hattak class. Let's say, as the numbers are never exactly stated, let's be generous, say there was about 2,000 of those ships. If you disagree that number should be higher, let me know in the comments, but the indication was the Goa'uld never had a vast fleet of the Hattaks, that each system lord perhaps only had a few hundred ships each, and the Council of the System Lords wasn't very big, so yeah, maybe 2,000 ships, because they got smaller system lords in and probably didn't have very many of them. The Goa'uld were more about show. Earth is much more about destruction. The Earth vessels would begin to quickly grind down the Goa'uld, and although flagships like Apophis' flagship, maybe Ra's flagship, and definitely Anubis' flagship are able, they're powerhouses, they're brawlers, they're taking on the Earth Alliance fleets easily. Anubis' flagship goes toe-to-toe with the Excalibur, probably destroys the Excalibur. I'm not going to lie, the Excalibur is not ready for the kind of firepower that ship's throwing at it, but let's be nice, and because we like the Excalibur, it was actually the Victory that was destroyed. So they keep going. But Earth realizes now they've got to screen their bigger ships against those things. But humans realize they've got to target and destroy those ships. Now the Goa'uld will keep these things on the move, but eventually they've got to use them. Humans concentrate their forces in huge numbers that will easily be able to overwhelm. The Goa'uld learn they can't deploy their bigger ships because they've got to grind down those defenses. But unfortunately the Goa'uld are losing more troops and more ships faster than they can replace them, whereas the humans are industrious. They're building and building, they're building. The Goa'uld resort to using human soldiers to augment their general forces. They begin to deploy different weapons. The Goa'uld do have the advantage of their Stargate network, so they can rapidly redeploy troops and forces to any problem zone, where humans don't have that. But by this point, as they're driving the Goa'uld back, they've likely captured a few Stargates and might even be able to work out how to use them. The biggest advantage the Goa'uld have, other than the Stargates, is the fact their ships are faster than the Earth Alliance ships. But that advantage is being nullified by the fact that Goa'uld are losing ships too quickly. So by this stage in the war, that by this point has probably been going on for about a year, Earth Alliance has lost hundreds of ships, probably just as many as the Goa'uld, maybe even more. But the Goa'uld started off with a couple of thousand. Even if they ramped up their production and they've managed to get their fleet up to say 5,000, the Earth Alliance has started with a much bigger number than that and going into a full war footing. Humans have probably at this point in the war got more ships than when they started. They've mass-produced the Warlock class, they've built a few more of the Victory class. But the Omega class and other such cannon fodder-like ships, which in this war they would likely be, have been produced in such vast numbers the Goa'uld cannot destroy them quick enough. The Goa'uld number in the millions. Humans number in the billions. And with huge amounts of recruitment and a drive to fight in the Great Patriotic War against these false gods, the humans are driving the Goa'uld back. In their arrogance, the System Lords descend into anarchy and start fighting amongst themselves, trying to survive and blame somebody else. Ra tries to keep things under control, but by this point he's kinda boned. The humans blow him up with a nuke somewhere. The Goa'uld go into chaos. My feeling is, again, argue, say different in the comments. I think the Earth Alliance is the victor here. I think they're coming out on top. I think they're coming out on top battered, they're coming out bruised, they're coming out broken. They've lost millions and millions of people, with very many of them taken as hosts by the Goa'uld. But remember, the Goa'uld's numbers are quite small. They take years to mature, and with their tendency to eat their own young, they probably don't have as many adulting symbiotes around to keep taking humans as hosts. They'll try, but I think ultimately even that's not going to help them, because understanding Earth Alliance tech isn't going to enhance theirs in any meaningful way. They've already got nearly every technological advantage. They can beat the humans in engagements one-on-one or a single one of their ships against a few Earth Alliance ships, but what they can't do is beat the onslaughts, the endless parade of warships being thrown at them by the Earth Alliance. They cannot destroy the ships quick enough. They can't penetrate deep enough into human territory to take out the shipyards. Maybe they've hindered them, they've crippled them, they've done some damage, but they have not done enough. And ultimately, the Earth Alliance, in my opinion, is coming out on top. But I would like to hear what everybody thinks. Tell me in the comment section below what you think. Am I underestimating the Goa'uld? Because in previous videos where I've analysed the Goa'uld, I often think that we don't give the Goa'uld enough credit for the complexity of their culture and just how resilient they actually are. They've survived for a long, long time, but I do think going up against an adaptable, flexible enemy with superior numbers, they're going to struggle. Bear in mind, they struggled with the Tauri before they even had space for really advanced. We had shuttles. We had space shuttles that don't even have weapons. The best we could do is carry a handgun into space and hopefully shoot it at a gun. Hopefully it works in space and we shoot it at a Hatak and do nothing. Maybe we ram it, but get blown up before we get there. And they struggled with that. So combine their general penchant for infighting and their general ability to, screw things up. I think the Goa'uld are struggling here, and the Earth Alliance is coming out on top, and the Goa'uld probably driven to extinction. This is also not including the idea that the Tok'ra are involved and they're probably helping humanity, but they're not, because I said so. But let me know in the comment section below if you disagree. And that is the end of this video.